Howdy chaps, and welcome back to another fantastic episode where we will be tackling the rather interesting repair that someone prior has done to that Landau. On the driver's side right hand quarter window area. Personally, if I owned a Landau, that would be the first thing I would undo, is take out those blanks and make it look like a coupe. That window shape is perfect. I don't know why they decided to get rid of that in Landaus. But anyway, we're going to fix that area and make it a little less garbage. So, now we have to tackle this wonderful issue. I'm not even entirely sure what the best way of going about doing it is. I suppose I'm just going to dig the lead out, drill out the spot welds, slice off a piece of roof so I can get to the spot welds I know are under there, drill out these ones, and then probably have to cut along here, I think, because this is, I've got an endoscope in there before and there is some interesting stuff in here which I can show you once it's out. You'll be like, oh my. And the XC coupe has moved its way all the way to the back towards the door because it's going off to be blasted in 2 weeks. Unfortunately, you know, you can't get a car in to be blasted in 5 minutes. There's always a waiting list, so that's stripped and ready to go. The coupe's looking pretty smashing, and yes, the EJ and Peter's guards, I have been tinkering with them. One of them's in Epitech. I did unfortunately find a little bit more rust in them, which I'll have to tackle, but this is where we're gonna tackle today, or at least in this video. So yeah, probably won't get it all finished in one video. It'll probably be over a couple, but getting it all exposed will be fun. I'll probably start off by putting a little brace in between here, just welding those two together, because when this all comes apart, this is going to get super floppy. I prefer that to stay where it was. This bit's not bad, it's just here, it's horrible. I'll probably have to sort of slice down and around and put a huge piece in, I think. But yes, we'll get stuck into it and see how we go. Righty, so we've cut the top out of the roof. Turns out it's not that bad in there. It actually looks really good. It's quite shiny paint, so you know, that's obviously from there. You have to cut a section out because you'll never get to the spot welds on a Landau any other way, unless you took the roof off. But we don't need to do that because the roof on this car is actually very, very good. So what I've just done is cut myself a little piece of square tube to 40mm, stuck it in there. I actually stretched it slightly because I'm not talking huge amounts, because I know that when it cools it's going to pull it together, so I compensated for that. So I've got that in there so that when this comes out and this comes out, this shape doesn't change, because trust me, when this comes out and this is out, this gets super flimsy, and I'd prefer it to stay in its orientation. That way you can run a straight line up the back there, because we're going to be cutting a fair bit of this out in a jiffy. So I've just got to clean up here to find all the welds, and hopefully there's not a million of them, and then I'm going to just have to run a blade through here, because I know that that's all brass all through there. So you know, you can't win everything. Also, the EJ is coming apart quite nicely, the old boy on the floor. We found a magazine or a catalogue from 2011 stuffed in behind the grill, so we know it's been 10 years since somebody played with it. And I got my paint for the EJ. I dribbled it on there. It's not the greatest, it will look better in the sunlight, but we got Atherton Ivory on the right and Panola Rose on the left. It's period correct. And I've got the grey for the dashboard top. That might be a bit better, but it's pink, but it's not a hideous pink, it's quite a nice pink. So yeah, I've got the headlight buckets in 1,000 pieces, and the bench isn't looking that clean right now, but you can't win everything. So drill this out, get this off, and see what wonders await us. You do have those moments occasionally where you're just trying to think, it's like, what's the best way to do this? And sometimes it's just cut it out, just cut it out. And that's what I've done. So the top up here is not bad, quite nice, quite actually really good. There's nothing wrong up here. I've got to zap up a couple of bits where I might have drilled a bit too far. It starts to get a bit funky down here, but we can fix that, I know a guy. And then I'll just cut this garbage, and that's the most politest way to describe it ever. That is just shocking. I mean, what is that? It's just unreal. Looks like somebody ran a stepping tool through it too. That's what I reckon. And I was looking at this wheel arch too earlier, and it looks like somebody, I mean, the sandblasting does show wonders, and yeah, so it looks like somebody cut the wheel arch and then ran a stepping tool through it. And you know, I guess that's okay in some instances, but not when you leave gaps in all your welds. I mean, that's just a recipe for disaster. So just by looking at it, you go, there's a patch here, another join here, another patch, join, another patch, join. We'll probably just go get those wheel arches from Custom Garage and get them through Howard Astle and just put a whole new piece in one go and get rid of all these separate joins that run through this wheel arch. And this, what the hell is that? I can only assume that's the old school people who drill a hole, well, you know, winding one of those old side hammers and pull it out that way. That must be really old. Yeah, poor quarter panels had some loving, McLovin. And there's another patch through here, tons of holes through the welds. One step at a time. The rest of that's okay. So that little bit there's the channel that goes in there. That's the remnants of the piece that went on top. And what did I do with it? Oh, here it is. So we get to make an entire new bottom for that. But I know a guy. The rest of it's okay. And yeah, well, there's the original bottom anyway, so I'll drill that off there, and then I can actually whittle up a new piece, and I'll probably go past and into here and try and get rid of this heavily warped junk. That is the best way to describe that. And do what I do with my brother's Landau, where I actually put a piece that went big swoop and went up like that. His car has a huge piece in that area, mainly because his had a huge hole running all the way through there. So, and you know how I was saying that this gets flimsy if you don't have that in there. See the quarter panel? Ooh, wibble wobble. So I'm just going to keep hacking at it. Looks like a broken screw in there too, actually. Keep at it and see where we get to today. So what you've seen there is I've just cut it out, made a new piece, and started tacking it in. You've got to take it slow because this is a crucial area that'll warp. I always found that having lovely curves actually eliminates. So if you have like a square edge, the steel tends to bunch up in the corner, but if you have a nice radiused edge, it does actually tend to keep it a little less warpy and bunchy uppy. And I tend to start from one side and work my way around because it will walk itself a little bit towards the end. But that's coming alright. I haven't done too much filming because I've just been super busy, and this has required quite a significant amount of concentration, and I didn't want to stuff it up. But we are progressing along quite nicely. Right, so the actual repair is done. We have effectively got rid of, I think this was about here. That mess is now gone, new piece is in. It always looks worse than it actually is, but it's not actually that warped. Like, they always warp a little bit, but if we get the old trusty ruler, you can see a bit of light coming through there where it dips in a smidge, but we're not talking craters. So that, and of course we do have the slight problem with the fact that right here it's actually warped from the last person who welded it in, and of course I think it was actually hit because somebody's pulled this out. So all of this here just below where I've been is actually stretched a little bit, so I'll have to at some point do some heat shrinking through there to bring that down, because it's like it goes flat and then starts bulging out through here. So I'll have to shrink this area down a little bit, but I don't think that's offensive. I'd never say I'm good at this. I always say I'm okay at it, or quite passable. There are tons of people who are better than me, but I can get you by, if that makes sense. So yeah. Alrighty, so we've etch primed this. The next port of call is now to remake the bottom of this piece. It shouldn't be too difficult. It's just going to be basically a right angle piece of steel, and we'll just weld it on the top of that. We'll get rid of that and just go slightly above it, and then that can be tidied up through there and then stuck back in. It should, in theory, go straight back over all the old spot weld holes. It's just currently one hand short at the moment. And yeah, they will line back up, so I could just put that exactly back where it was. Obviously it got a little bit tweaked as it came off, but you just reshape it, and then that can just go straight back there. I know it looks terrible when you put primer on it, but I promise you that's not warped. I mean, it is a bit, because I'm not perfect, but it's not as bad as it looks, I promise. So I got rid of some of the bad ripples that were here, but still some of them are left. Well, those two were anyway. But what I can do is when I do the bodywork, I could run the pin puller over it and get any of the lows that were really bad. And I'll have to do some heat shrinking right there. But we got rid of the bad repair in there. So onward and upward. I'm having a bit of a problem. I'm fighting the noise of the rain at the moment. It's insane. And there it goes again. Yeah, so just walking you through this one. I have made a rough template of the bottom half of, here comes the rain again, the bottom half of this. So now I'm going to effectively line up the spot welds at the top, and I should be able to mark out where it is and effectively join the two of them together. I ended up making just the bottom section. It was just easier that way. That was all garbage, so that, when those two go together, should make up the blank quite nicely, and it should line up fairly well. I always make the patch a little bit bigger than I need to, just in case I get it slightly wrong, or I need to add in some wiggle room, you know, so you can take it back. But eventually you should end up with a join that should look, once it's only very loosely vice gripped in there, should look pretty close to the factory, with this one sitting, joys of the spot welds being there, should line up fairly well. So I'll get stuck into that and see how we go. Alrighty, so that's what we're ultimately chasing. Lines up all the previous spot welds, lines up nice, actually fits really quite well. I would have preferred a bigger gap through there, but I don't think that's going to be a showstopper. It'll also allow me, I can weld this up prior to putting it back into the car, which means I can plenish up and lovelyify both sides. And we're getting you know, it's actually kind of funny really, when they teach you to weld, they say you pretty much want to have 1/3 of the height of the weld on the inside. So whatever that is, 1/3 of it's got to be on the inside. So that's what a good penetrated weld looks like. You know, that is going to be strong as ever. Just useless side knot topic. So make sure when you do weld that your welds go all the way through. So I don't think that has come out too badly. sometimes it's way easier just to cut the garbage off, make a new piece and go again, like what we did here. We just cut that huge piece out, made a fresh one and stuck it in. So then when we put this back in, oops, oh, almost lost it somewhere. Now this can go back over the top and we will have replaced a very, very sad looking world. And it's not actually that warped. I'm actually quite happy how that looks. Just the shadows casting you know, an unpleasant looking you know, it's funny actually when you talk about seeing dents and ripples and things. The sun is very, very good at showing them up. So like if you're a bit unsure, put it outside and look how the shadows fall on it. So this looks worse than it is, and I think I showed this earlier, but like that's where it is. There's hardly any, it just looks worse than it is. So that is actually surprisingly flat. Like yeah, you got some there, but we're not talking a lot, and then virtually none there. So despite how that looks, that is flat. So it's funny how shadows can throw you. But we're actually, you know, unfortunately the quarter panels had more hits than Elvis. But this area, this area blah, 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 is actually coming out rather well. So I'll get that welded in. Well, actually, should I say, I'll get this zapped up, and then we can get it welded in, and then put the roof back on and do some leading and whatnotting. Alrighty, so we've got the blank back in. It is now blanked and back to how Landaus are, not how I think Landaus should. There's a couple actually people I'm very happy that agree with me that to make a Landau look pretty, you'd take that out. But Landaus are blanked off because they've got bigger roof linings and different trim on them and things like that. But still essentially Falcon Coupe. But yes, we have that's back on, that's welded up. They're the little emblem holes. Can't even remember what they're called, little marquee badges or something that go right there. And your vinyl roof comes across horizontally like that. And we're trying to think about, obviously Landau related, the blue Landau at home. I was trying to think whether or not any really talented motor trimmers could actually, because we don't have the chrome mouldings on that car, never had them, don't have them, probably never be able to get any more. We're wondering, well I was wondering whether or not you'd be clever enough whether you could make the vinyl roof and sort of overlap the edges, or like fold it in on itself a bit like a seam down a normal roof, and then like maybe hide some trim clips in it or something. That way it's got like an edge for what effectively used to be chrome. But now all we've got to do is clean this up and put that back in, and then put the lead back in, and then that'll wrap up a nice little video. Alrighty chaps, I've just put some lead in that, just get the lead out as I say, and you know, I'm still not a magician at this stuff, but I think I can get something that's reasonably passable. That thin skimmer filler will then be able to make up the difference. So I don't think that's offensive. You can see all these warps in the quarter panel from before, so realistically I was umming and ahhing about putting a bit more lead in it just through here, but I may just leave it for now and then just wrap up the video. You can see where the sandblaster, when it was blasted, it actually took out some of the lead, so the roof dips down and you got that flat where the factory lead is, and then it's all lovely right here where my lead is. So that's quite nice, but I don't want to put too much heat into it with leading and whatnot, but I don't mind the stuff. I think it's quite fun. I did have a mask and respirator and stuff on when I was doing it because I ain't crazy, and I will be washing my hands after this too. But I think that should wrap up quite a nice repair. Once I throw some etch on it, it'll be lovely. So I will catch you on the next rust repair.